From not realizing I was waiting for things to happen to me in Warzone,
You did not push this team. You're just reacting to them driving right in front of you.
to making some of the greatest 2v1 plays ever. There it is! Join me as I try to master the art of winning in Warzone. But to do this, I'm going to need some help. So I hired a professional Warzone coach. Meet CuppaJoe, known as the greatest Warzone coach ever. So sit back and grab your notebook and enjoy my journey into the Warzone Hall of Fame. Subscribe and enjoy the video, Bird Gang.
First things first, what's your KD, what's your PR?
PR is 21, KD is
Okay.
like average is like a 1.9.
Okay, 2.19. What's your goal?
I mean, the goal is to average 20 kills a game. Like I'm so sporadic and inconsistent. There's somewhere it's 5, and there's somewhere it's like way in the high teens and low 20s. So the goal is just to be consistent.
Consistency is ultimately what I'm always looking for, right? So if we consistently understand how to win gunfights and we can consistently understand how to find people, then we can consistently get more kills because we know how to find people. We know how to actually kill them once we find them. Now, throughout this, there's really kind of 4 main things that I always focus on: aim, movement, positioning, and gameplay strategy. Let's pause right here for a second. Okay, so aim, movement, positioning, and gameplay strategy. What do your shots look like? Are we hitting high damage areas and hitting shots consistently, both close range and long range? Movement, are we using basic movement, right? I always try to keep movement simple. Slide canceling, strafing, a little bit of jumping occasionally. Like slide canceling and strafing are the 2 most important things. We have aim, movement, positioning, making sure we're playing high ground, making sure we're always playing cover, looking for head glitches, and then obviously gameplay strategy, popping UAVs, understanding rotations, understanding kind of who to challenge first. And then the one I always put in there as well is just anticipation and centering, which is like making sure our crosshairs are where we think people are going to be. And that is just kind of factors into that movement dynamic and that aim dynamic because it just allows us good shots, good positioning, and good job acting on that live ping with your teammate. Yeah, centering kind of factors into the movement dynamic a little bit and stuff, but it's just so, like, first shot with how fast the TTK is right now is such a differentiator in gunfights. Anything in particular you feel like you really struggle on?
I think I overthink it, where I am more of, I got to play to win, so I play more conservative instead of pushing the envelope and being more aggressive. So then it limits the kills I get. So then I'm more worried about the position I'm in versus worried about getting more kills.
Gameplay strategy is one of the hardest things to figure out. I always talk about, like, in the beginning when you first start improving, it's a lot about like aim and movement. Like, you just got to learn how to hit shots and how to use basic movement, right, to your advantage. And then, like, once you start to get better at that, then we start to go into this gameplay strategy dynamic of, like, how aggressive are we playing? How are we approaching teams? Are we playing, how do we change our pace in gunfights? That's something, like, not a lot of people talk about, but there's certain moments where we've got to put the pressure on. There's certain moments where you have to slow down and really kind of play strategic. And then once you get over that hump, then we start to get into, like, aim and movement again, where, like, we're really using movement fully to our advantage. We're using some advanced movements. And we're just hitting all high damage areas versus, like, hitting some toe shots and some knee shots and, like, maybe we miss a few bullets. Like, you're fully locked in with your shots. While you're looting up here, I try to focus on strategic aggressiveness is what I call it. So we are going to play aggressive. I am going to kill hunt. I want to get 20 kills. The decisions that I make are very strategic. So, when I'm very aggressive to get into a situation where I can fight a team, but once I'm in that situation, I'm smart about how I do it. I'm patient on my approach. I'm going to look for solo fights instead of the 2, where 2 guys are very close together. So that's kind of what we'll focus on throughout this. And the other thing that I will say is, like, you can be very aggressive up until you burn your gulag.
Gotcha.
Now, you have teammates here. It also kind of depends on the game mode you're playing. Like, if you're playing quads and you have good cash flow, you can obviously play aggressive because you can always get bought back. But I play a lot of solos. I play a lot of solo duos. Or I'll give you another example. You guys are playing like trios and quads. You guys get wiped. You all burn gulag, right? Like, we've got to play a little bit smarter in that situation afterwards because nobody is getting bought back or come back for free, right? Now we have to spend money to get you back. So we have to play a little bit strategic at that point. But I tend to play aggressive up until the spot when I lose my gulag.
Okay. That's good to know.
Which sometimes is first circle. That's unfortunate. And sometimes it's later in the game and it's 5th circle. And, we can be aggressive for a lot of the game.
Makes sense.
No UAV here. So we're wandering. Wandering is part of Battle Royale. If we were playing Resurgence, I would scream at you. But, it's part of BR. It's part of where we have to kind of wander a little bit. Yeah, I'd be looking car here. Just for the record, we're playing with randoms here. So
yep, randoms.
people are going to be all over the place.
Yep.
HDR growl. Okay. And your growl set up. Okay. Okay. Slow this down. So you're tracking well strafing wise. I do jumping's a little bit wonky because sometimes it can throw you off a little bit, but you can kind of see, this is probably one of the best examples I can give this because it's you versus him. Like, you ultimately win this gunfight, but technically speaking, he's probably hitting your head, and because he jumped, you're hitting his legs.
Gotcha.
Throwing in a jump every once in a while is probably a good thing, like right here, because technically you'd kind of slide up a little bit versus just relying on that strafing. But at the end of the day, we win that gunfight, and this goes back to like must-use movements. Slide canceling and strafing are the two most important things. Would like to see probably that. I want to keep an eye on that aim and make sure we're aiming high enough. I've done thousands of coaching sessions probably.
No, that makes sense.
The biggest problem that I see with people's recoil control is they actually have very good recoil control. They just aim too low.
Gotcha.
I promise you. Like, and we'll pay attention to it throughout. I'll see if I can. Hopefully, I don't see an example, but I might, where your crosshair stays at the exact same height the entire time, but it's on the dude's like hip versus at his neck and at his head. At which point, you know, we're having a slower TTK.
Gotcha.
Perks. Scavenger, Cold-Blooded Ghost.
Yep.
Not my favorite. You know, obviously there's advantages to Ghost, and oh, there's no way that's not a headshot.
I thought the same thing.
I want to see how you approach this. Yeah, that's a tough spot because your teammates are already engaged, but I would try to be. Why are we behind here?
I was thinking if I was going to be behind and I was sniping, then I would play the back roll to be the support role as they pushed in. If anybody spread out, then I could pick them off. That was my thought process.
It's not a bad thought process. I want to see like where you just get caught behind. Because like you could still play aggressive with a sniper. This is where like you could still play aggressive with a sniper growl, but you just got to be smart about it.
Yeah.
Like you just can't put yourself in dumb situations where you're completely out in the open, like over here, and there's a guy sitting on this rooftop and you're like hoping that you hit the shot.
Right.
Right? Like those are the situations where we have to avoid. It's a big dynamic that not many people think about is like, okay, based on our primary and secondary, like where are we strongest, where are we weakest, right? Like what range should we be fighting in? Obviously you in like the super, super close range have to be careful because of the growl TTK. You know, you're not going to be able to in a head-on 50-50 against like a C9 or a Ladra or something. So this is kind of where we slow down a little bit and we get caught. And then obviously we have the mortar strike coming in, which holds us in place. Okay, so let's see what we do from here because we're back where we were. We're going to call in mortar strike here. Also, I have no idea how many. I have not watched this back. So this is kind of first time that I'm seeing this as well. Just my thoughts. Again, focusing on aim, movement, positioning, gameplay strategy. I would kind of be thinking about maybe replacing pink, getting in with blue. Yeah, let's see where you go from here. I would also say one thing here. When I see mortar strike here, like mortar strike very clearly, if you look on the minimap here, is like this building. Like you can just push around this way.
Yeah,
like
that's a good
You can
call.
get here. Like, you know, there's certain moments where we are going to be held in place by the mortar, but we could have easily pushed up here kind of around that right side and gotten there with pink and blue and tried to figure out what our next move is from there. Because like we're kind of I know what your thought process is here from that angle. Like now I would probably start to work my way up with them.
Okay. Yeah, and I didn't even think about going right. That's so funny. My brain was focused on the left, but I didn't even see you could have gone around like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And you'd have plenty of cover to circle around there. This is a little bit tough here, but it's something I want you to work on is just centering, right? So, you know, it's hard because you're looking right here and you don't want this to be in the way. But like at the end of the day, if there is an enemy right here, I mean, you've got to like flick and hope you see that window, right? So just see if we can get this a little bit closer here to kind of, or, you know, up here or up here where we think somebody's going to be. so that we have less movement when we go to take that shot.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
Good. Now we're pushing up. I mean, your teammate's doing a good job with comms, with kind of pings and stuff, which is nice.
Yeah, I was shocked because randoms usually don't get that good at communication.
I would totally agree. Nice. Oh, mistake number one. I love it. Okay, so there's two things that we need to keep in mind when we pop a UAV. Number one is you pop UAV, okay? And the first thing that you do is open up big minimap and you mark this guy right here, right? But he's already on your minimap. So like you opening up big minimap here, you know, it's not a crazy amount of time, but like, yeah, you might have just wasted, I'll say minus one UAV ping, right? Because we opened up big minimap to mark what was already on here. Now, the other dynamic of the minimap when we pop a UAV is remembering information and kind of understanding where people are. So I want to see what happens as we push closer here and see if we can actually get eyes on the people in the back. Now, immediately what I notice here, this is where we play aggressive, right? So, nice. Was that a headshot though, or did you? Yes, it was. So like, as crazy as this sounds, and as obvious as this sounds, like I would challenge you and be like, you can get kills with your secondary, right? Like you don't have to stay back here and snipe. So when I look at this and we pop UAV right here, the first thing that I notice is the solo player, right? So the guy that you pinged, and when I say solo player, what I mean by that is I am looking for players where their teammates cannot immediately help them. Where if I, in a head-on 50-50, end up one shot, but I get the down, like his teammate is not anywhere near us, right? So we can go ahead and get that kill. We don't have to worry about it. So also we obviously take note of these people. But as you rotate over to here to go challenge this guy, these guys would have popped up on your minimap and you would have been able to remember this information here. And you would have said, okay, I know that there were people over that way. You could probably take this over here as well. Now, obviously there's the guy he's super far away. But this is where like, I think maybe you're relying too much on the sniper because, you know, we're sort of in the fight, but this is more passive in my opinion than strategic.
Yeah. And I think that's right. Yep. I was nervous about pushing because I was like, oh, I'm gonna, like, I have the growl, I should just play back, and I played too passive.
Because like, let's hypothetically say you get that down. There's a real possibility that this guy slides in, and there's nothing that like how you can't get that thirst, right? So, which is going to happen from time to time. But where I look at this is I say, hey, sniper's great for kicking off fights. And you know, getting those longer range kills. Also, we just pulled out heartbeat sensor. We just had a UAV. We know that nobody's around us.
Yeah, good point. Jeez, that's so funny.
Now you could have ghosted players. That's where somebody, like, if you're playing as a squad with actual people, I would always recommend somebody run Bird's Eye. It's one of the most slept on perks.
Yeah.
I run Bird's Eye in solos because everybody likes to run Ghost and it just shows me where everybody is. But if you're on a squad, you know, we can really start to diversify and switch perks. This is where there's not like a single best perk. You know, you can have people run, you know, some people running Tracker, some people running Cold Blooded. You can have some people running, you know, a one player running Ghost because then it throws a team off who pops a UAV and is approaching thinking that it's 3 enemies versus 4 enemies. You can have people run Bird's Eye. You can have people run Tempered to save on plates. Now, okay, this is a really important thing that I want you to work on. So one thing I want you to work on here is the ideal range. When I look at Verdansk and the size of Verdansk is, yes, we're going to take our kills in the 100-meter range with a sniper, right? Those crazy long shots, they can't even be further. The ideal range is like somewhere from 20 to 50 meters, okay? And what that does is that gives us plenty of cover and outplay potential where if we do get broken, we take a lot of damage, that we're still in an okay spot to finesse, right? We still have plenty of cover. We can back off and replay. If there's a guy, hypothetically, say, right behind this truck, right?
Yep.
Which is probably right around the 50-meter mark. Like, you feel very confident here with the HDR.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, you're feeling really, really good versus this situation, if we go all the way back here, that is a little bit more pop shotty, right? Where we're taking shots, but like, we're not that we're hoping to hit the headshot, but it's sort of like, okay, I'm going to try and do my best, but there's no guarantees.
Right.
Whereas right here, when we're in this window fighting somebody, kind of looking down at the truck, we have a much better chance of getting that headshot. So ideal range 20 to 50 meters. Of course, the other dynamic is, you know, hypothetically speaking, let's say you down the guy on this car. Well, if there's nobody else around here, like, you have a really good opportunity to get this thirst. You can push in and get this thirst, right? And kind of put yourself in a spot where we can get that full kill. We can add +1 to our kill count, you know, because the down's not enough to add +1. We still need to get the full kill. We can take that enemy out of the fight, which means if there are other enemies around, we now have the advantage. And we just kind of snowball that a little bit more.
Makes sense.
So I always think about ideal range being 20 to 50 meters, and we'll take advantage of longer kills when we can get them. Especially for those that run, I don't know if you run an AR at all, like, especially when we start talking about the Krig and the AMAX and even the Growl as a primary, or the Kilo, like, pretty heavy damage drop-offs, where at like 60 meters, they're just not nearly as good. And there's this ginormous damage drop-off. So we want to try to be positioning ourselves in that 20 to 50 meter range. You know, and then as you become a better player with aim and movement, then you can even you can drop that down to like 10 meter range, right? Where you know you're pretty confident that you're not losing a 1v1 fight in close quarters.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's almost like when we're this far away, we feel very safe, right?
Yep.
Like nothing bad is gonna the chances of something bad is happening from here is not very high. Right. So what is the closest that we can get where we still feel safe?
Okay. That makes sense.
And 20 to 30 meters for me is like, that's where I really, really try to be. Oh, no way. Oh, somebody stole him. Oh, is that your teammate?
Yeah, I think my teammate.
What if it was your teammate?
I think my teammate got him.
Use your melee more. You know, use melee when rotating, you know, and running out in the open. Just gives you unlimited attack sprint, allows you to be quicker.
Yep.
Now, this one I am okay with you opening up big map, by the way. Just so you can get a sense of, okay, like, who's around. And the biggest thing is, let's remember, I mean, we got 228 here until circle closes. Let's remember that there's people around here that are going to have to rotate in.
Yep.
Now, I would go fight these guys because they're in zone. And I would just go take those guys, and then I would just I would just be thinking about holding everybody else out of circle. Yeah, it's again that ideal range where it's like, we don't really have an angle on anybody.
Yeah.
And the way I kind of want you to think about this is like, I'm going to write strategic aggressiveness, but also pushing versus reacting. Right? So like, this is a great example. You did not push this team. You're just reacting to them driving right in front of you.
Right.
And up until this point, once you've gotten loadout, it's been a lot of that reacting.
Gotcha.
Right? It's been a lot of like, oh, I see this guy here, right? And I'm gonna try to snipe him. And or like, you know, oh, this guy's rotating out in the open, right? So like, you're just reacting to him. Now you're in a good position here because you have plenty of cover. Also, quick note, take a look at where your teammates are. I think your teammates are actually fighting the team that was across the river.
Yeah, they're fighting the team, exactly what you said.
Yeah, so, you know, I'm always thinking about, I want to push, right? That's the aggressive dynamic, but let's do it strategically with positioning. Now, obviously, you can see right here, like, we are the damage merchant right now.
Yeah.
Like, we are just cashing in on breaks, but we're not getting any kills for it. See what you do from here. You can see how you're just reacting here. Like, you're just hoping somebody runs out. Now there is that other guy somewhere.
Yeah.
That's floating around here.
Yeah.
That crossed over to your left, and we never saw him cross back right.
Right.
But you feel how, like, right now, there he is. There we go. By the way, you did not get long shot there. So I don't know what that distance was, but kind of crazy how, again, we weren't pushing, we were kind of reacting here, but we're in a much better range.
Yeah, the range.
Much easier to hit that headshot, but still, you know, much easier to get that thirst. Boom, we get that thirst right there. Yeah, just watch, make sure he, yeah. Oh, we get UAV. Nice. That's huge. From where?
Yeah, I didn't even see him.
He's ghosted. Guaranteed.
Yeah. He's not on the minimap.
100%. Yep. Ghosted, and obviously this guy or this guy pinged you.
Right. Yep.
That is the downside of lingering a little bit too long. You know, you were kind of there for a while. That's a little bit of an unfortunate situation because that guy, I want to watch your gulag here.
Yep.
You know, that guy's ghosted. He's behind you. You had the UAV. It's definitely an unfortunate situation. Good job using lethal.
Yeah. He's AFK.
That's just... Yeah, I mean, no, that was just like really good. You broke his camera well. Really good movement, really good centering right there. Guy was shooting circles. He clearly had no aim assist. No, we'll take the AFK kill. We'll take the free one.
Take it all day. I do struggle in the gulag though. That's like if I was gonna like the change with this gulag with no plates is definitely a big annoyance for me. So I've been trying to get better at.
Biggest thing is first shot.
Yep.
You know, use your lethals and tacticals. Don't feel like you have to play super aggressive. I thought you played that really, really well in terms of like the angle that you took and kind of where you were anticipating. Just got to really, really be ready. I'm very curious to see if you play any different with an AR versus sniper. Nice. It's a little bit tougher in quads, but, you know, obviously the more UAVs we can get up. I think another thing that I'd really like you to work on is, you know, try to capitalize on UAVs. My thought process is very simple. If I spend 6K on a UAV, like I want to replace that cash by getting kills, you know, and taking their cash.
Right.
You know, so that I can get another UAV. Now, how do we do that? We do that by acting quickly on the info, right? Finding solo fights with that UAV, right? Approaching teams well, and then remembering information. You know, I'll go back to solos because when we have quads, we talk about replacing cash. You know, we can obviously kill 4 people and take all of their cash. When I'm playing solos, I am going, okay, like I pop a UAV, I have bird's eye so I can see everybody, but I'm going to go get this kill and I'm going to grab his cash. But like 4 times than not, even with me running scavenger, which gives us the 1500 pack, even with that, like I'm not going to get enough cash for another UAV most likely. So I need to remember where another team is or where another enemy is so that I can go kill him and take his cash as well. Not only does remembering information help us with like, okay, where do we go next? But it's just good to keep that information in mind. Where, you know, our next rotation, oh, we got to remember this team over this way. Or, hey, let's just go push and we can really kind of, you know, go put the pressure on and try to get the kills. Yep, good ping. That's perfect. Like if you're in the passenger seat, you want to be taking note of where teams are. Now, why this guy's not driving over there, I have absolutely no idea. That I do not know.
Right.
Still 12 teams left here. Nobody around you. I mean, you guys completely cleared that side. I'd go UAV here. I know you don't have loadout guns, but I mean you do, but they're not yours.
Yeah.
But it looks like you got a Ladra and
Krig C.
You got a Ladra and a Krig.
Yeah.
And I think your Krig is 8 attachments. Where is everybody? Somebody's running bird's eye because I think they are pinging. Where are we going here? Yeah, this is where you're rolling blind here because you do not have bird's eye.
Yeah, exactly. That's a big shift to make that shift.
I do like it just because nobody can hide.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And they were pinging a lot of things that were on the map. So now I kept wondering why. Now I know why. That one of them has to be running bird's eye. So.
Yep, I would have probably gotten back in the car here. Oh my gosh. So let me just highlight one thing for you here.
Yeah.
you're dead. If he's there.
Yeah. Right. That makes
See
sense.
what I mean?
Yep. No, that
So
makes
like,
sense.
the way I clear this building is top of the stairs. I kind of peek here. I'm going to use this to peek back corner. And then from there, I'm going to like quickly check here and like boom. And then we challenge here. And then if he's not here, then we're good. But like a lot of people do this where it's like, I mean, if he was there,
I'm getting
your
up.
teammates kill him.
Right.
There's no doubt about that. But you're probably dead already with how fast the TTK is.
Yep. Am I back to him that long? Yep.
Yeah. People up the hill, car. This is definitely a little bit tougher because obviously you are playing with randoms who like everybody has different play styles.
Right.
And obviously we're kind of holding down the fort right now. But I definitely think one of the biggest things is just keeping control of gunfights. Like you haven't gotten into a fight with a UAV up in the ideal range at all. Right? Like you have not at any point in time throughout this game been like, yeah, we see these guys. We're going to go ahead and push. And we have a UAV up as we're approaching this fight, which makes it so much easier.
Right.
I've been using this example a lot lately, which is, I'm so scared to even say this because I know this will probably go in the video, but like if I gave you wall hacks and I told you where people were, you would have no hesitation to go push people and be able to win those gunfights.
Right.
That's essentially a UAV at times.
Yeah, no. When you say it like that, I just never thought of it that way. That's true.
So obviously with the past UAV, like we have seen the ghosted players and stuff, but like if we can get UAVs up and like understand the spacing of teams and, oh, this guy's slightly separated from his team, we can go kill this guy, or like, oh, this guy's bottom floor, this guy's top floor, we can go push the, either one because they're separated. It becomes much easier. And then it's just about like basic centering and anticipation and then hitting your shots and using basic movement. Right? Like if I tell you if we know where the guy is and then we get the first shot off, which is going to give us 100 health advantage out of 300, and then we just hit decent shots, we win that gunfight.
Right.
And that's where I try to make Warzone as simple as possible for people. That is my goal, is how do we make it as simple as possible? And the biggest thing that we're seeing right here is just wandering, right? Like we don't really have anything to act on. Now, when we're wandering, okay, what are our options here? Well, we've got a few. Again, with randoms, everything's a little bit tougher, but we can go loot up for a UAV, right? We can go bounty. We can go supply run to UAV, or we can drive around and look for weapon pings. Weapon pings is a big area that a lot of people struggle, but if we hear shooting and it's a lot of builds right now are unsuppressed, whether it's a Krig, whether it's an AMAX, like a lot of builds are unsuppressed. So, people pop up on radar when they shoot. We've just got to be in a vicinity where we can actually catch that on minimap.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because I feel I do a lot of this wandering where it's like that dead downtime. And you're right, when you think about it, there are options. I just don't, in the moment, you're just not thinking that. That makes sense.
Yeah. Like there are times I'll drive 250 meters to a bounty because it's like, I have nothing else to work with.
Right.
Right. It's the only thing that I have that I can actually act on. And you can see right here, I think there's a lot of teams probably in Quarry. And that's the, we can, drive around. If we drive into Quarry, I'm sure if you go around enough of the map, eventually you will find something to act on.
Right.
You will hear somebody, open a door or break glass or shoot their gun. Like you'll hear something. It's just, we've got to like wander to those spots.
Right.
I think there was one the other day where, how do you remember where I was? I don't know. I had a heli and I flew like over Superstore, over airport, over TV station, over like, and I just literally over Stadia. I literally could not find anybody. And then of course everybody was downtown. So I had to go fight there. But point being is like, I'm just rotating and kind of looking and trying to see what I can find. And eventually I'm going to find something.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
You guys are in a really tough spot here, to be honest with you. You guys are trapped in no man's land. Now, you have no choice but to hold this down. Like, if I'm playing here, I'm like, boys, we got to hold this one down.
Yep.
This is going to be tough. Uh-oh. dude just got deleted from that side. Good shots. Can I have that full kill, please? Wait. On ADS. On ADS for me. Please. Please. I want to know how far that is. It's not going to show us.
I think it's 70.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 79th, I think.
So this has to be a little bit closer.
Yep.
Right? So let's call it 60. We're pretty close to that ideal range, right? This feels like a comfortable spot to fight. You know, we're not in a head-on 50-50 where we have to execute absolutely perfectly, but it's also a really good range when it comes to controlling TTK and obviously giving us that. Okay, so that was 78 meters, right? So that's a fringe one right there. That's one where we're going to take that. It's not ideal, though.
Gotcha.
We're going to take it. But, like, if you had a choice to fight this guy here or put him, like, right here, you would choose right here every time.
Every time.
Right? So when we're thinking about approaching fights, which approaching fights starts with information and understanding where people are, right? If we can put ourselves in this spot here and find a good angle, you know, that is ultimately, you know, what we're looking to do. So I always talk about positioning. Okay, so positioning is info, range, cover, high ground, and angles. Okay, so positioning starts with information, right? You cannot start a fight unless you see somebody, right? And you cannot approach a fight and position yourself unless you see somebody. Okay, so positioning starts with information. If we have a UAV, we understand where people are, maybe we saw somebody, whatever it may be. Range, okay? This goes back to the ideal range. What is the range that we are fighting in? And ideally, it's 20 to 50-ish meters, right? Obviously, we have cover, right? We don't want to fight out in the open and make ourselves an easy target to hit. We want to be thinking about high ground, obviously, but cover is more important than high ground. You can have high ground and be completely out in the open, right? And it doesn't do you any good.
Right.
So want to focus on cover first, making sure that we have cover, making sure if we can get high ground, we can get it. Even if it's just like perched up on a little rock or, you know, a slight little jump up onto like a trash can or like a ledge or something, like any little bit of high ground we can get is going to be better. Then of course, angles, you know, you got to make sure that you have a good angle to actually shoot that guy, right? So if any of these are off, you have to fix it.
Got it.
Right?
Okay.
So like if we don't have information, we can't play positioning. We can play we can play positioning, but this goes back to what I told you earlier. You're just reacting to what's happening. You're not actually pushing a fight. Right? So if we have information, but we're at 150 meters, well, this is off and we've got to fix this, right? If we have information and we're in a good range, but we're caught completely out in the open and we have no cover, well, we need to fix it, right? In order to get to a better position, we need to make sure that we have cover. If we have information and we're in an ideal range and we have cover, but maybe there's a slightly better spot here that we can play when it comes to high ground. Okay, then let's go ahead and take it. Even if it takes an extra 10 seconds, it's going to give us the advantage. And then, of course, angles, right? If we have information, if we are in a good range, if we have cover, if we have high ground, but we don't have an angle to actually shoot the guy, right? Then this doesn't do us any good, right? So we need to fix that as well. Prison is fire. Well, prison could actually work where like you could have information, range, cover, high ground, and like you just don't have an angle to shoot the guy.
Right.
Which point we either wait or we find a better angle. We probably need to rotate early here. I mean, this is gonna be a brutal rotation.
Yeah.
We really can't get to that building. That building is not gonna do us any good. You guys are going to wait so long. And like, we just, oh my gosh. You got to go now. The longer you wait, the harder this is going to get. Yeah. So like, oh, he just got sniped. End game. I always think about rotating early.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like I wait too long. Like right there, they already left, and then I'm catching up because I always wait.
I always am thinking about how can I hold people out of circle instead of getting held out of circle.
Gotcha.
You know, because here's the thing, and I always use this. How many times have you been in a situation where it's like you're caught on the edge of zone and like you run, shoot your gun, run, shoot your gun. And it's like really awkward. It's like uncomfortable to do,
right?
Because you don't have any outplay potential. There's only one direction you can go. You can't, I mean, you can play gas mask here and kind of finesse a little bit, but it's not like you have a ton of wiggle room here.
No.
Versus if we rotate early, you know, we can start to like, we can push back further towards zone. We can, you know, obviously play piece of cover to piece of cover, because when you have gas pushing you, you have the time component, meaning like you have gas pushing actually behind you or on your, you know, from wherever, and you're going to take damage from it as well, potentially.
Yep.
So like if we can rotate early, and this is a great example, like these guys are kind of playing these rocks here. So like you rotate early here, you can kind of pause behind these rocks for a second, breathe, replate, you know, and then you go, I'm going to sprint to this rock here. And then you take a second and then you push up top this way. But you can only do that if you don't necessarily have gas pushing you in fully. And good reminder that this is not your Krig.
Yes.
That is important. Yeah, I mean, this is just... Now, this is one thing I want you to work on, is you want to be up here.
Gotcha.
You want to, I would try to fight my way up top here, because there's a team up here, and like, where are we going to go?
Mm-hmm.
There's nowhere for us to go, which means if we just kind of push in here, there's nothing good that's going to happen. I would try to rotate up top here and see if I can fight here a little bit where there's cover, and then worry about everybody down low.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes more sense.
Like, I'm always thinking about like where teams are and where am I most likely to get killed from.
Yeah, that.
And like,
yeah.
how do I get out of that situation?
Right.
Which, like, my guess is, I don't know. Again, I've not watched this, so I don't know if you guys. Yeah, see, like, we need to. It would have been great to fight this team earlier.
Mm-hmm.
That team.
Yep.
I wish we had fought them like a minute or two ago. Not a minute or two, maybe like 30 seconds ago, right? When again, they kind of have the same issue, but like, again, we've got gas, we've got this time component and this damage component where we're in a really bad spot.
Right.
I mean, now you guys have the advantage.
Right. But if we would have rotated up top, we would have wiped them first and then pushed down, and I probably wouldn't even have got down.
Right, and they're never gonna see you. I mean, they might, but like, you're able to get the advantage here early, especially like when you got this knock, because pressure's on them right now.
Right.
Right, like they've got to make the decision. Like, he may have self-revive, but let's assume he doesn't have self-revive. Right? Are they going for the revive? Are they not going for the revive? Well, if they go for the revive, then he's got to spend some time actually reviving and not paying attention to what's going on around him.
Right.
Right? Or not shooting his gun. And then, you know, it just, the pressure is on them when an enemy goes down. Same thing here. Obviously, in this situation, you're not going to get revived immediately, but it adds just the dynamic of, hey, I went down, now what? So I would have probably rotated up off of this down right here that you get, and then kind of figured out what the next move was. They already know that you're over here. So one of two things is going to happen. Either you push up and you kill them, or you push up, they fight you back, you push down the hill, and you're in the exact same situation you were before.
Right. Yep. No,
but one puts us in a low risk situation, more high reward situation, where we can be able to get 1 or 2 kills while we are up here. And then it's a little bit easier from there.
Right. No, that makes sense. Yeah.
Any major questions for today?
No, I think you covered it. It's so funny getting a different set of eyes, because it's like I'm looking at it and I'm like, why am I playing so slow? I feel like I'm playing hesitant. I'm not controlling the moment. And then it's funny looking at the map and then looking at that shot. For some reason, I remember that thinking, man, that's really far away. But then I'm looking at the map and it's actually not that far away. I could have rotated up, grabbed my own loadout, or even kept this one and still had the positioning. Yeah, no, I think you've pointed out a lot of things that I definitely could work on that I just was right in front of my face that I didn't even see.
The other thing that you just brought up is like, again, if we push up here, we go back to ideal range, right?
Yep.
Now all of a sudden we're in that 20 to 60 meter range where we're going to get that faster TTK. It's a little bit easier to hit shots. You know, and the slower TTK means people have more time to react. The harder it is to hit shots, the more shots we miss, then it gives people more time to react. And I always say, like, when we shoot our gun at somebody, the fight changes. One of two ways. Either we're going to give away our location and they're going to know exactly where we are, at which point the fight becomes tougher, or we're going to get the down, pressures on them, and that fight has changed because we have the advantage now. So as soon as you shoot your gun, the fight's going to change. It's just a matter of, does it swing our way or does it swing their way? And a lot of times our decisions negatively affect and kind of push the pendulum in their direction if we're not smart about when we pull the trigger.
Right.
But I think biggest thing for you is like that strategic. We didn't really see any close range fights besides the one early on. But I think biggest thing for you is like really trying to act more on information, you know, capitalize on those UAVs, start to string together 1 or 2 kills so we can replace that cash. And just really think about pushing enemies and trying to play your angles. I think the positioning is information, range, cover, high ground, and angles, like really encompasses, okay, we have information. Now we can go ahead and put ourselves in a really good spot to be able to easily get this kill.
Yep. Nope. That makes total sense. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Alrighty. Perfect. Well, wow.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yep.
Yeah. Let me know if you have any other questions, and we'll take it from there.
All right. Thanks, Joe. I appreciate you. Wow. Joe gave me a ton of stuff to work on. Big shout out to Joe for coaching me. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, go ahead and do so. And make sure you hit subscribe here, guys, as well. And as always, I appreciate you guys, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks.